Hey guys, don't forget Hackamania is coming up May 9th through the 11th in Las Vegas, and I will be there live with Who Are These Podcasts. I can't wait, and I hope to see all of you guys there. Oh, plus, if you use my promo code Kaylee, Cayley, you can get 10% off your tickets. Can't beat that. See y'all there. What's up, Internet? Welcome to Once Over. I'm Kaylee, and with me today I have Anthony Zenhauser, and we're going to be giving the Once Over to Big Trouble.
You see, there is no rule that says I can't come over here and fart on your entree.
There will be spoilers.
Give it a good once-over.
Giving us the once-over.
Giving him the once-over.
Give me a once-over.
Down to give us the once-over.
For a routine once-over.
Once-over.
Oh, just once-over lightly.
So, Anthony, I am so excited that you are here with me today to talk about this movie that came out in 2002. You are an incredible comedian. You are hilarious. You make me smile all the dang time. And in addition to that, you have great taste in movies. So thank you so much for being with me.
I really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to be here. Yeah, I thought it would be a fun movie to go over with you since it was such a sleeper movie when it came out.
I had actually never seen this one before, so you asked me if I saw this, and I was like, no, and I got super excited. It had been on my list for like years, and I just never got around to it. It was one of those where it was like on the never-ending list of the I want to watch it. What was your first introduction to it?
Well, I actually saw it in the movie theater. I remember seeing a Tim Allen vehicle. I'm a big Tim Allen fan. Yeah! What a great actor. And I wanted to go see the movie. It looked like it was a fun movie. And again, I enjoyed it. I remember going into that theater, having a good time. And then after I left, I forgot all about it. It just, nobody ever talked about it again. It was one of those movies that just float into the ether. And for some reason, the member berries started kicking in a few months ago. And I said, oh my God, I remember this movie. I remember this being a good movie. Why not share this with Kaylee? I think she'll have a really fun time with it.
I did. I'm excited to hear that also because this movie was a huge flop. So I think that you might have been one of like 10 people who actually saw it in theaters. It had a budget of $40 million and it only made $8.5 million in the box office. And I have a couple of theories about why that is.
Well, I think a lot of it had to do with timing. I mean, It was directed by Barry Sonnenfeld, amazing actor, of course, box office blowouts with Men in Black, the Addams Family franchise. I think he also did
Get Shorty.
Right, the Get Shorty franchises.
He did the classic Wild Wild West.
Wild West, yes.
Can't forget that one.
So this movie comes out. Of course, it's supposed to be released in 2001. September 21st, 2001 was the release date planned.
Yep.
And of course, we all know that was a magical year for a lot of people, especially in New York. 9/11 happened, and this movie, spoiler alert, happens to involve hijacking of a plane with a bomb.
Yeah, smuggling a nuclear weapon onto an airplane was just perfectly timed for all the 9/11 stuff. And they did end up delaying the release of this movie, but only until April of 2002, which is not a very big delay. I feel like people were still very sensitive to these topics at that point in time, which was a little weird for me.
Yeah, well, I think it was that. I think it was the ultimate horror of 9/11, but also a big factor, of course, was Touchstone. They pretty much pulled out all their promotion at that point. Everyone forgot about it, and they decided, hey, we already promoted it for September. Why are we going to put all that money back into promoting it again? And of course, it just hit the movie theater very softly. Nobody even knew it was coming at that point. I remember vaguely seeing the advertisements for it, but it wasn't a lot. It was in and out very quickly of the movie theaters. So if you caught it, you caught it. If you know, you know. But yeah, that was probably the main factor was 9/11.
I think that is the most logical of the factors, and it surely is the reason. But I have another theory about why it was such a flop. Tim Allen's character is named Elliot, and he does not look like an Elliot, and that is a dumb name. And I could not get over the fact that his name was Elliot throughout this entire movie. I don't know what it was, but I was like, no, that's not an Elliot. He's not Elliot. Stop calling him that.
Yeah, he looks more like he's a Tim or a Hank or a Steve.
Yeah.
Some one syllable name really probably
Yeah.
fits him better. His character was basically loosed, I believe, on David Barry, who
Yes.
was the inspiration behind the movie. He wrote a book called Big Trouble in 1999. Whoever doesn't know David Barry, he was a humor columnist in the Miami Herald who was nationally syndicated. So, I mean, I remember reading his stuff growing up. I really loved his humor. Did you ever read David Barry?
I never did. He had a TV show, I think, for a little while, and I think I caught a little bit of that. It was like a sitcom.
You think that's tough? You ought to try writing a humor column.
And I know he put out quite a few books. And I always liked him, but he was never somebody that I kept up with.
Right. He was like, you can always catch his stuff in Spencer's Gifts or the Barnes and Noble's, the softback humor section. But he was smart. He was funny. He was a little dark, and I think he was friends with Barry. The two Barrys, David Barry and Barry Sonnenfeld, got together. How could you go wrong? They made the movie. Again, another issue probably was the actual movie itself. It's a little crazy all over the place. A lot of weird subplots that really don't go anywhere. We can get into that in a little bit, but I think overall, it was just kind of a chaotic comedy that was made for fun, toned down by the studio because they didn't want to get an R rating, and I think that was another problem, is that a lot of the jokes were cut and watered down, so that probably didn't help.
Yeah. I do think that Sonnenfeld's directorial style is perfect for this sort of a quick-paced odyssey. So it's a little bit chaotic. It's a little bit crazy. But I think that it works well with David Barry's sense of humor. I think that it works well with Sonnenfeld's directorial style. One of the things that I really loved about Barry, he said, I think it was at least a somewhat famous quote. He said this about a sense of humor, that a sense of humor is a measurement of the extent to which we realize that we are trapped in a world almost totally devoid of reason. Laughter is how we express the anxiety we feel at this knowledge. And I just think that that is perfect, and I think that's a really good definition of this movie.
Yeah, I think so too. It does have a little touch of the absurd in it. You kind of have to suspend your disbelief.
Yes.
And go along with some of the things, like Heavy D being a FBI agent.
Now, nobody likes this, okay? But this has been discussed, believe me, as high as it can be. Every scenario. And this is the only way out.
But once you get past stuff like that, again, it's a fun movie. I remember having a good time watching it. I thought the acting was great. I thought it was a star-studded cast, right? A lot of big names at the time. Tim Allen was a huge name.
Yeah.
Rene Russo.
Yeah, we had Jason Lee, Ben Foster, who wasn't a big name at the time, but, he has since become one. We had Zoe De Chanel, Sofia Vergara's first U.S. film, Stanley Tucci,
right.
DJ Qualls, who I absolutely love from Road Trip and The New Guy. I had a big crush on him for a very long period of time.
Yeah, he had that big dick energy, didn't he? Kind of skinny guy and a belly spanker to boot.
I was very devastated. In 2020, he came out as gay, and I was like, damn it, I'll never have a chance. I was
still might.
Heartbroken. So I do think, before we get into the movie itself, I do think that there is one other possible reason that this was such a giant flop. I understand that they named the movie Big Trouble because that was Dave Barry's book, and so they were continuing that name. I don't think that you can name any movie Big Trouble after Big Trouble in Little China came out.
Right.
Everybody calls Big Trouble in Little China Big Trouble. You can't say the name of that movie without people going, in Little China?
Yeah, it's absolutely true. When I was doing research on the movie, all the Big Trouble in Little China trivia facts would come up, and it was pretty funny to see how lost that movie was just lost in the shuffle. It's pretty funny how, since it was such a small movie, it gets lost underneath all those other big blockbusters. Again, you wouldn't want to name something like Back to the Future and then have another, movie Back to the Future. Nah, it doesn't sound right.
All right, well, let's actually get into the movie itself. So this movie, it actually opens up with a very Jesus-looking like Jason Lee as Puggy, and he is telling the story about Noah and Noah's Ark, and he's eating Fritos because he loves them more than anything, I'm pretty certain.
You just can't beat these when they're really fresh.
And he's explaining, he says,
Life is hard, so you better find someone who'll be your partner.
and that really sets us up for the film because this movie is about partnership. Every single character that we will have in this film has a partner.
That's true. And again, I think it's funny that every character has a partner. That's what kind of bothered me a little bit about the Hitman scenes with Dennis Farina.
More on number 2. Just got more on number 1 all wet.
Gimme, I ain't never seen that.
And
Yeah.
he brought a hitman partner with him to do the hits, and this guy pretty much all he did was hang around and almost get him arrested all the time. He would fall and the gun would come out. Like, he was an incompetent guy, but for some reason, yeah, let's bring this guy along on a hit. That'd be a great idea.
Who thinks this shit up, huh?
So yeah, so you had to have that kind of again, maybe the style of writing of the movie, maybe it was the David Barry influence, but it's the conversational comedy. I think it works best when you're bouncing it off somebody constantly. And
Yeah.
I think that's why they always partnered up people for it.
It's very evident in this movie, I think, much more than in other movies. And I think it has to go back to that Jason Lee speech of everybody needs a partner. That's the whole point of this movie. So we have a couple of partnerships. You already mentioned the 2 hitmen. So we have the 2 hitmen. They are Dennis Farina and Jack Keeler. I'm not super familiar with him.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah.
Were you familiar
I don't,
with
again,
him?
I know of him. I know he's a big character actor. He was in The Big Lebowski. He was in a lot of other things that you kind of is one of those Johnny Pants characters. Like, I know that guy. I just don't know what his name is. But yeah, Keeler, yeah, but he's always great and funny. Again,
Yeah.
a great add to the movie for comedy, but it just didn't make sense in the plot. Like, why have a guy blowing up your spot as a hitman? But you're right. There was him. There was his son Ben with his friend Andrew, played by DJ. Who else? The FBI agents were a couple.
Pat Greer, Alan Seitz.
We have the 2 cops are a couple.
Okay, one at a time, starting with Mr. Killer over here. What happened?
Played by Janine Garofalo and
Patrick Warburton.
Patrick Warburton. Oh, I love him so much. He's just wonderful. And
Yeah,
we get
he
to
is
see his
great.
butt in this movie, which was lovely for me. And then we also have, so not only do we have the bumbling hitmen, but we also have bumbling criminals, bumbling bad guys, Johnny Knoxville and Tom Sizemore.
Asswipe.
Right. Snake
Bumbling
and Eddie.
ex-cons. Yeah.
Yeah. 2 kindred spirits who met in prison and they share fart jokes. So that's their connection. So they just say, hey, let's be life partners and go on killing sprees. And Tom Sizemore, of course, famous for his drug antics, which is funny seeing him in that movie. And you're going, did he just show up on set looking like that? Because that's probably what happened. Like, I think he was in the throes of his crazy drug years during that movie.
I think so too. Although there were a couple of times where he gave me a very like John McClane and Die Hard sort of vibe. Like he's wearing like the dirty wife beater. He's like crawling on the floor at one point. And I was like, are we just doing John McClane, but the bad version of John McClane?
That's funny. He does kind of. What's funny because Tom Sizemore does kind of look like the fat Russian version of Bruce Willis.
Yes, he really does.
Like a poor man's, like a Eastern European version. If they need a Bruce Willis character for those movies, let's call this guy.
God.
And of course, the 2 Russian guys who own the bar, the arms dealers who were running bar, very bad business.
Yes.
Which they end up becoming pivotal to the plot as well.
Yes. Yeah. And that is, we already kind of mentioned this a little bit, but the plot is hard to follow because there are so many characters. Even though everybody's paired up, so you can kind of say the cops or the hitmen or the FBI agents, you can kind of do a little bit of that, but there's a lot to keep track of and a lot of people to keep track of, and where the heck are they? So we start out learning that Elliot, Tim Allen, hate that freaking name. I'm calling him Tim Allen. I can't call him
Call him
Elliot.
Tim Allen. Yeah, I was just planning on calling everybody by their real name. They'll
By their
get
real
it.
name.
Right.
Perfect. I love that. So we find out that he used to be a Pulitzer Prize winning humorist, and he had a column at the Miami Herald, which exactly mirrors Barry. And he ends up quitting his job by putting his foot through a computer on the same day that he finds out his wife is cheating on him. So he's having a rough day. And we get to meet his son, Matt, and that is Ben Foster, of course. And Elliot is like a nerd dad. He drives a Geo, and the Geo represents missed opportunities because he could have gotten a cool car, but he didn't.
He's cheating on us! I'm scared! Come on, Matt, move this thing!
I can't! It's a Geo!
And they have a pretty cute relationship. It's surprisingly well developed for how many characters there are in this film.
Yeah, I love how David Barry takes the piss out of the Geo Metro in the movie. I remember the salesman going, it's a sweet ride. It has FM and AM radio.
Sweet little vehicle. Just get divorced? That doesn't matter. 42 miles to the gallon, AM, FM radio. I'll even throw in the undercoating.
Yeah.
And that was like a selling point for the Geo Metro. A lot of people don't know what the Geo Metro is. It was actually made by General Motors. It had a very short run. I believe it was from 1997 to 2002. Chevy picked it up. It was like I think Suzuki and General Motors were partners on it, and it was a real piece of shit car. And I'm assuming David Barry had some horrible relationship with one.
Oh yeah. That car gets trounced in this movie. That car, I think, is long lost to time.
A Metro, the LDI Cooper, the hatchback. My biological father sells them in Tulsa. If the salesman tried to pitch you on free undercoating, it's total bullshit. They fall apart before they rust.
Yeah, again, it's a member Berry movie. It's a very specific movie to its time. It's a very late 90s, early 2000s feel to it. And again, it was the downfall of the early 2000s for the reason why that movie didn't make it. What I don't like about what they said in the movie is that they refer to the Jaguar as the fag jag, which again, I think Jaguar is I think it was like kind of tip to the hat, the fact that Jaguar was taken over by Ford as what's his name? Patrick Warburton says in the movie. Yeah. And I think it was a kind of like a little dig on a beautiful car like the Jaguar. But I guess if you drive a Jaguar, I guess there was some homosexual undertones to it, unbeknownst to me.
Yeah, who knew?
Yeah, who knew?
As long as we're on the topics of cars, one of the things that I really enjoyed that was just such a stupid. This is a visual comedy. There's a lot going on. There's a lot going on in the narrative, but it's slapstick at its heart. There's a lot of slapstick going on. Yeah. And one of the things, we get to see it 2 times in this movie, where they have the old school electric seat belts that come up when you open and close the door. And I was like, I had completely forgotten about how much people loved those stupid things. Like, why did anybody use that? That was so stupid. And I loved it. I thought it was perfect.
It was a great sight gag. And also the Tom Sizemore scene where he can't see and Stanley Tucci keeps throwing things and it's hitting him in the head.
Give me your keys.
Again, there's a lot of ongoing jokes throughout the movie. What the bomb looks like a garbage disposal. Everybody says that.
What is this?
Garbage disposal.
Garbage disposal.
Portable.
Goats. Of course, there's goats that show up. So again, it's if you didn't know it was written by somebody who generally writes satire comedy and comedy for a living, they love those little references.
Yeah, and it's a really good script. Again, a little bit confusing at times, but it's masterful in many, many ways. I think it doesn't always hit the mark exactly, but when it does, it's a total success.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it works. The scenes work. I think the scenes work individually. I think they were really funny. I think the chemistry was great between the actors. Again, I think there's a lot of little Easter eggs in it too that are fun for everybody. Apparently, Barry Sonnenfeld likes to throw little devices here and there in the movie. That's just kind of like a little joke for him, so to
Yeah.
speak. There's a scene where Andy Richter's plays a security guard, and he notices that Andrew has a gun, or Ben has a gun, and they're playing a game called Killer.
Oh shit. We have this game at school, Killer. You get somebody's name and you're supposed to squirt them.
Tim Allen's son is trying to squirt Rene Russo's daughter throughout the movie, and he sees the gun, and all of a sudden Phil Collins starts to play Something in the Air Tonight.
Yeah.
And you're like, what is that all about? And then you look it up, and there's a scene in a Miami Vice episode from 1986 called in an episode called Brothers Keeper, where they have a little scenario where they got guns and they're going
Just
to
like
do
that.
something with Something in the Air Tonight. It's such a little, nobody would get it except probably Barry Sonnenfeld and the guys who wrote it going, hee. This is like a little Miami thing.
That's crazy. I love that. And so what is interesting about the storyline, the major point of the story is this game Killer. Let's talk about that. So we have, at the same time, there are two simultaneous storylines going on. We have Matt, Tim Allen's son. He is trying to do this killer game where he squirts Zoe De Chanel's character, Jenny, where he squirts her with a water gun. And at the same time, we have the two real hitmen who are trying to kill Arthur, who is Jenny's father, Stanley Tucci. And so we get to see all of these things kind of interacting with each other as the film goes on. But that's the baseline of the narration of the film. And we learn so much about these characters as we are doing that. So again, we have kind of the bumbling hitmen. The first place that we really see them is when they are, they have like the gun tucked into their golf bag and they're like spilling it over in the airport and they can't do anything.
We play with a guy that cheats.
Then when we meet the two bad guys, Johnny Knoxville and Tom Sizemore, we get to see also, them like trying to beat up Puggy and then the bartender beating them up with a bat. Like lots and lots of little moments here.
Yeah, there's a lot of moments where the worlds collide, of course, eventually, but the little interactions and subplots, they again, a lot of it seems to gel by the end of the movie, but I feel like they force this concept of a nuclear weapon that kind of ends up in the hands of these Russian weapons dealers. These guys end up the two ex-cons end up ex-cons. Yeah, we call them ex-cons. The two Americans, the two real American guys. The heroes of the movie, actually. They end up taking the nuclear weapon in a holdup unknowingly, and not even knowing that it's a nuclear weapon. Of course, they're so stupid, they really think it's a garbage disposal, but they think they can get some money out of it. So they shove that into the plot. And that's pretty much where the movie goes from there. So yeah, so after they steal the weapon, that's pretty much the main focus. You really can't get bigger than a nuclear weapon. So now everything is kind of like geared towards that.
Like we've mentioned, there's like a whole bunch of little subplots. I have a favorite of those. So I'm going to tell you my favorite, and then I would love to hear your favorite of like the little mini scenes within the film. And I love this one so much because it's so disgusting. For me, it's like the only really disgusting moment of the film, which is where Arthur, Stanley Tucci, starts hitting on the nanny, Sofia Vergara. And he's like, you're my nanny. I get to do whatever I want to you. And the thing that he wants to do is lick in between her toes.
Let me clean your toes with my tongue.
And it is worse than any other toe-licking scene in any movie history, as far as I can tell. It's like how you'd lick a grapefruit, and then he's like full-on filleting the foot. It's like, it's a bonkers, hilarious little scene. It ends with Sofia Vergara smashing him over the head with a crucifix. Like,
yeah.
That is a genius, beautiful little scene that makes me want to turn away, but also I'm like, ha 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 ha, amazing.
A woman's feet are very important.
Yeah, little known fact that the foot scene was actually in Stanley Tucci's rider. He was like, "I'm not doing this
Yeah.
movie unless I can suck on the new girl's feet, Sofia
Yeah.
Vergara's beautiful Latin feet."
Yup.
Yeah, it wasn't tasteful like the Lord of the Rings foot licking scenes.
No,
I'll be
no.
honest with you. It was a great scene. I kind of forgot about that scene, and then watching
Yeah.
it again, yeah. I mean, if anybody can play creepy, it's Stanley Tucci, and he
Oh,
played the
yeah.
ultimate creep jerk off in that movie. Like he just nailed it. And again, you watching it and going, why wouldn't he lick her feet? I mean, this is exactly what this bitch would do is eat her, and yeah, you're right. Like he was licking between her toes. I'm like, listen, I'm an amateur toe sucker, but I know for a fact you go big toe first,
Yeah.
kind of work your way down like a corn on the cob. You don't, he just, it was,
You went all
again,
in.
he went all in, and it had to be an amazing scene to shoot between both of them. How do you prepare? Like, if there was a toe licking scene that you had to do, would you need a couple of minutes to kind of get to know the person first?
Yeah, I would need to make sure that I had a pedicure. I would need to make,
Yeah.
like, there would be weeks and weeks of prep work for that. I don't know that I would want to meet them before the scene, though. I feel like I would want to go in blind and then get to know them afterwards. Like, I feel like I want it to just be a random Stanley Tucci, not a Stanley Tucci that I had dinner with the night before,
I love that. And I love when she hits him over the head with the crucifix, and then she meets her own personal Jesus in
Yes.
the garden. She ends up passing out, waking up, and then there's Puggy standing over her as the Messiah with the light
Yeah,
behind him. And he really was a beautiful homeless man in that
he
movie,
was.
right?
Yeah.
Just I thought one of his sexiest looks I think that he ever did was homeless Jesus.
I've never been attracted to Jason Lee before, but I can tell you after watching this movie, I was like, oh, maybe. Interesting.
And his storyline is great because he kind of builds up that he's the narrator in the beginning of the movie. You kind of get the sense he's doing the prologue, but then he kind of passes the ball, does a forward lateral to Elliot, who
He
then
gives
takes
us
control. Yeah.
Yeah, he gives us actually a little hint as to what's going to happen in the beginning. He starts out as the narrator and he says, "You know what? I should let Elliot narrate because I spent a good portion of the story locked in the trunk of a cop car."
Right.
So we know that things are going to get wacky and wild, and that they're going to get wacky and wild pretty darn quick.
Yeah, and they kept him around because obviously his main function in the movie was that he was strong and he could carry the bomb. That was his main role in the movie. The romance was very not lightly touched upon. He kindles this love relationship with Sofia Vergara, but you don't really see that develop too much. You just assume at that point they're in love with each other. But his
Yeah.
main role in that movie is he was the bomb carrying guy, and the way he comes into the movie is great. He just likes Fritos,
Puggy, are you okay?
so he
Yeah.
moves to Miami because he heard Cuban food was good, and here he is just living his life. We all want to be a little Puggy, I feel.
Yeah. Living in a tree also.
Yeah.
He's living the dream life. He's totally happy as far as I can tell.
I've never seen a homeless guy's hair that clean and beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if I don't know if he gets to shower. I don't know if there's something in Fritos that keeps your coat shiny, but
We should all be eating Fritos. That's the key.
I think it's
So
pretty apparent that I eat Fritos.
I do want to jump back to Arthur's character a little bit. So Stanley Tucci. So something that is interesting about him, we kind of talked about how there's all these partnerships. His character is the only character that doesn't have a partner. So he has a stepdaughter, again, Jenny, that's Zoe De Chanel character. And then he has a wife who hates him. Very, very much, as far as we can tell. That's Rene Russo's character. They are clearly on the outs. He is the only loner in this movie. So he is set up to be the bad guy. We know that in some way, shape, we know he's done some embezzlement. Does that mean that he deserves a hit on his head? I don't know that it necessarily means that, but he's the loner, and that makes him sad and different than all of the other characters that we're getting to see.
Yeah, he was, again, I don't feel like there's any real bad guys in the movie, I think he is definitely a character you're not supposed to like. They make that
Yeah.
very clear. Some of them have redeeming qualities, like even the two dummies, dummy one,
Yeah,
moron one, and
yeah.
moron two, as Dennis Farina would call them. They're likable. Like Tom Sizemore is so charismatic in that movie
Yeah.
as the thug. Like again, they're playing thugs. Johnny Knoxville, of course, is goofy and silly. They make a good team. You kind of, in a way, feel bad at the end when Tom Sizemore does the Doctor Strangelove
Yeah.
fall into the ocean with the bomb. But yeah, again, they're the Hitman too. The Hitman that again, you like Dennis Farina. You're not. You don't. There's nothing that you really loathe about those guys. You know they're
Yeah.
not nice people. Like they're hitmen. They kill people. He's taking people hostage and they're stealing money. But they're just likable characters. You're right. Stanley Tucci is the only guy you're like, that guy's a piece of shit, and I hope he doesn't make it through this movie.
Yeah. Yeah. You want to see him get his comeuppance for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this kind of leads us into the big, like, early movie moment climax. So we have at this point this huge crazy scene where both Matt and his friend are going to try to shoot Jenny in the killer game, and at the same time the assassins are trying to kill Arthur. So we have both groups of people in the backyard, and the real life assassins shoot, but so does Matt. Matt rushes into the house. And this is a really successfully done scene because after Matt runs in, the mom tackles him. She like takes him down. The bullet is flying. Nina is fleeing. Puggy is jumping on top of one of the real assassins and taking the gun. And then the cops show up. And so now we have like this huge kerfuffle of absolutely everything. And it's a funny little scene because the cops are saying freeze and everybody's freezing and like the game Twister sorts of positions. Like you just have like somebody's butt all the way up in the air.
Slowly.
Freeze!
Very, very goofy stuff. And I think that it's a perfectly reasonable way, like to talk about just that one scene. That's kind of how you describe this movie. There's a lot going on, but it's all really funny. And there's so many little teeny tiny things in there that make it exciting.
Yeah, and this seems like the house is the one place where all the characters come together in the movie all at once, and they do it twice. They just end up all being there at the same time. Again, the ongoing gags are great. The way that the mother corrects his grammar the same way his father corrects his grammar in the beginning. Arthur and I need to kill a girl.
Andrew and I have to kill a girl.
And you notice also that there's no TV that doesn't get shot in or TV or monitor that gets kicked in.
They get broken. Yep.
Everything gets broken. All the TV monitors, all the computer monitors get broken, which again is maybe it's a little tip of the hat to I hate office life technology, whatever it is, materialism. I don't know where they were going with that, but David Barry was a satirist and cynical and sarcastic. So it kind of seems like he's got a problem. He's almost like the Ted Kaczynski of humor columnists. He just shuns away from all that stuff and he tries to make a point in that book that later became the movie. But yeah, it's a great scene where everything kind of, it's a kerfuffle, but it works. Again, it does work. It's not a bad movie. I have no problem with the plot. I have no problem with the craziness of anything from the goats to, again, there's a dog in the movie where it's being terrorized by what was it, like a toad?
The dog is crazy. The toad is he has hallucinogenic spit. I don't. He's like the dinosaur in Jurassic Park, but a toad.
Right.
Which I think is a real thing, but I don't actually think that that's how it works. But so the toad sits on top of the dog's food so that the dog can't eat. So then we're sad for the dog, and like even the toad and the dog kind of have each other. And the dog comes back in the end of the movie. This is definitely an absurdist comedy in many, many, many ways.
Yeah, and the frog's like the size of a cat.
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
just this huge fucking toad. I mean, again, nobody notices this huge frog sitting in the dog's food
Yeah.
bowl all the time. It doesn't make any sense, but it's funny. You're right. It's funny to think a dog tripping balls
Yeah.
and chasing its own tail, thinking it's food. But yeah, again, it was those little run-on jokes really did it for me. All those, again, it's just a sign of good writing. It's just a sign of smart, funny writing.
Oh, absolutely. I completely agree. So as we go on in the movie, we get to, again, kind of see everybody sort of falling for each other. So Matt and Jenny are starting to build a little bit of a relationship. Jenny is kind of impressed with Matt. Matt doesn't like his father's advice because he thinks he's a loser. And Elliot's response to that is, well, you're just a little shithead.
Up yours, you little shithead. Your turn.
So we're kind of like seeing all of these relationships develop in little teeny tiny ways, both for the good and for the bad. And again, we know you brought up everybody kind of coming together at the house. What's going to happen is all of these pairings are going to kind of divert and then come back together a couple of times in the film.
And again, there wasn't any sex in the movie. It wasn't a sexual movie, other than the toe licking, which again, it's a weird sexual scenes. A guy licking somebody's feet. You can take that as sexual. You can take it as disgusting.
Yeah.
But there's
it was very erotic.
It's very
it was a very erotic toe licking.
If you say so, Kaylee.
No.
But again, it was kind of like family. It was still family friendly in a way. There wasn't anything
Yes.
where you would hide your kids' eyes over.
No, definitely not. It was done in a comedic. It was done with the comedy beats.
Right. And I feel like maybe some things were watered down, that maybe they did have some more sexual things going on, sexual innuendos and violent scenes, but the Touchstone executives
Put the
probably cut it
kibosh
out.
on that.
Right.
So the next thing that we kind of start focusing on as all of these characters start pairing off and going and hanging out with their partner, we start to really focus on the suitcase. So the suitcase is what contains this nuclear weapon. And I hate the design of the suitcase. They keep calling it a suitcase. It's a trunk. It's not a damn suitcase, which is fine. I just don't call it that.
Yeah, and it also, I mean, what would stand out more than a metal trunk?
Yeah.
With big latches on it? You're not, if there wasn't a bomb in there, you'd be like, why would you have this? But it's casually being taken off the airplane into customs with the dogs. Of course, the dog's giving birth next to him. Yeah, it's just like, whatever. And again, it's a garbage disposal. That's the big joke throughout the movie, and it's got wires and a timer, and it looks just like a big bomb. It doesn't look like a garbage disposal, which again is also a funny scene in the TSA when it's going through the machine. And of course, that's very, very relatable from anything before 9/11 to now. Like, it would happen again now. People would get that bomb through customs now, as opposed to it actually happening closer to the terrorist attacks of 9/11.
Yeah, it was a really well done scene because they send the suitcase through the X-ray scanner, which they refer to. They don't call it an X-ray. He said it's a Xerox machine.
Snake, this ain't gonna work, man. They got Xerox machines up there and shit.
That's what the moron too thought it was. Yes.
Yes, exactly. And then he passes his gun around the scanner, and it's very, very well done, and it felt very reminiscent of those pre-2001 airport days. Like, I probably could have done all of that. Everybody was just annoyed and pushing you through.
Yeah, it was not good security back then, and we wised up for a few years, but I think we're right back where we were as far as the way airport security goes now. I'm telling you, I can get that bomb through. Maybe I shouldn't say that on the show.
I was gonna say, now you've been flagged.
Yeah.
I still feel like it's a little bit different. When I was like 5 years old, my parents used to just put me on an airplane. Like, they would drop me off at the airport, and I would just go into the airport and navigate myself and go to my gate and get on my airplane and get off. And I started doing that when I was like 5. And to this day, there was no better time to be in an airport than then. Like, that was where I developed my love of airports, because it was just fun, and like, it was a playhouse for a kid.
Was this an anecdote, or was this a confession?
That's a little bit, yeah. It was a weird upbringing.
Are you going? You were working through tragic experiences.
Yeah.
My parents would abandon me in an airport.
Yeah.
For
Oh,
hours,
God.
and I was
Oh,
5
God.
years old. I couldn't even speak.
That's why I hate the Suitcase so much, and why I hate that the guy's name was Elliot.
Yeah, and the man would always pick me up.
Yeah. Oh, it got sad.
Well, I know it's really sad. Hey, do you need somebody to talk to after the show?
Yes, please. So they go and they're all convening on the airport now. So like, we had them all convening on the house, and now everybody is kind of like rushing to get to the airport because they all know that there's this nuclear bomb. We get introduced to the 2 FBI agents that you briefly mentioned before, and I think are very, very worth mentioning, because they do not I wouldn't have guessed that they would be FBI agents.
No, in fact, the Russian bartender, not even looking up, goes, Baptist church down the street, and they do. They look like 2 preachers. Heavy D, phenomenal job acting in this movie. He looks like he really worked hard on that role to play that FBI agent. So I give him it. Omar Epps, I mean, couldn't even keep up with him. And Omar Epps is an amazing actor.
It's great,
but
yeah.
Heavy D stole that whole scene with the bar.
He did a wonderful job. Absolutely wonderful job.
Yeah. Again, why Heavy D? You'd have to wonder where's the connection? Why, of all people? And then you go, oh, okay, then there's a giant frog that shoots psychedelic poison and all that stuff, and there's goats. So yeah, why not Heavy D as an FBI agent?
Now it makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely the absurdest stuff. So speaking of that toad, something that happened back at the house was there was a period of time where Arthur and Janine Garofalo got handcuffed to a bookshelf. Right. And as a result of that, they need to try to escape the situation. And so Janine is like, we are going to bust through this window. And Arthur is like, oh no, this is a horrible situation. He ends up going face first into the toad. So he is now hallucinating like crazy, and we kind of leave him off on his own while everybody else rushes over to the airport.
Right. And that's kind of where his story ends in a way. Yeah. Like there's this whole build up. This is one of the problems that I had with the movie, now that you mention it. So he works for a big construction company. He's the bag man for a lot of the higher ups when it comes to some nefarious dealings. He ends up extorting money from the company. The company wants to put a hit out on him. And then it kind of just goes away. Like the hitmen, they show up, they try a couple of times. I gave it a shot. And then they just kind of like, I guess we give up. I guess we're not doing it. So that whole plot goes out the window, right?
Yeah. And again, I wanted him to get his comeuppance. So the end of his storyline, the movie does end on him. He's still strapped to that bookshelf, and he's running down the street, and the dog that has now been haunting him has turned into Martha Stewart face dog, and he's freaking the fuck out. And I mean, it was a funny ending to the movie, but it wasn't really like the payback that I wanted for this lonely guy.
Yeah, he didn't. Again, there was no closure, and the only real villain, the only other real kind of shitty character was Bruce.
This sucks.
Played by, I believe, Michael McShane, the guy known, of course, as Friar Tuck from the Robin Hood movie. Plays this. I guess he's like he owns a beer company or something. He comes to Elliott for an ad, and his main takeaway from the ad is, we need more tits.
You ask a guy what he wants, tits or an ugly fish, see what he tells you.
Probably.
Tits!
I need to see bigger tits. Just big, sweaty, fat, Florida, stereotypical character. You know, he's a big fish in a little pond. He likes to do cocaine with hookers. And
he sure does.
Yeah, he's all sweaty. He's a real, that guy is just, he has to pay for sex. I mean, he's one of those guys, right?
You know what I mean?
He just,
I think that's the perfect way to describe him. He is, he's also quite lonely.
You see the redeeming quality. Oh, he's just misunderstood. Yeah, he's a misunderstood guy. But he gets his comeuppance a lot during the movie.
Yeah, he does.
Dennis Farina breaks his fingers when he refuses to put out his cigar. Heavy D smashes through his window and takes his car. You know, again, there's
payback for him.
Yes. You feel what's the word I'm looking for? Vilification, is that a word?
Yeah.
You're a smart person.
Sure.
There's
I don't actually know. I believe it. It sounds like it is.
There's
go with it.
A vindication. There's vindication for his shitty antics.
Yeah.
But the guy who you really want to see get it at the end doesn't. He kind of goes scot-free. And I guess the punishment enough for him is that he is being chased by a Martha Stewart dog.
Yeah, which is absurd.
Fair. Yeah.
Completely absurd. There's a lot of Martha Stewart references. There's also a lot of Xena warrior princess references, which I was surprised by. And I mean, again, I guess it's that kind of, this was a little bit later than that. Like the early 2000s, I feel like Xena had already kind of like been in the decline for many years at that point.
How dare you?
I know. I love Zena. I'm so sorry. I take it all back. I used to swing on my trees like I was pretending to be. I'm not even going to try to do the little call thing right now because
man,
very embarrassing for me. Nope.
Yeah. Again, it was very early 2000s, late 90s. It kind of it encapsulates itself in this bubble that maybe wasn't smart to do. It doesn't really have an evergreen long-lasting effect. People watching this movie goes, Xena warrior, what the fuck is a Xena warrior princess? Which maybe again why it didn't become I think it's a great movie. I remember when I remembered seeing the movie, I remember enjoying it. I watched it again. It holds up. It's still funny. It's still well done. Again, unfortunate circumstances when it came out. It was a global tragedy that you can't really fight that. I mean, it was actually Barry's
couldn't have been worse. Yeah.
Yes, our 9/11 was actually Barry Sonnenfeld's real 9/11.
Yeah.
When that happened.
It's true. It impacted him more than anybody else, in fact. And not only that, actually, he was filming Men in Black 2 when 9/11 happened, and they completely shut down production for that. So he got impacted in two ways.
God damn.
Can you believe that?
And
nobody had it worse than him.
Yeah. And again, but it's a great thing to blame a bomb on.
Yeah.
Why did your movie bomb? Was it badly directed? No, 9/11 happened.
Duh.
Yeah. Yeah, it was wild, man. I mean, again, the buttholes must have clenched as soon as they were watching that on screen on September 11th going, it's a tragedy. Oh, but they're like, fuck, our movie's done. We're done. Yeah. So they all meet at the house. And then a big car chase ensues, a race to the airport. The two guys have the bomb. The FBI's on their tail. The cops are on their tail. Elliott's on their tail. They take Jenny. So Rene Russo's on their tail. It's this big wild goose chase to the airport. The hitmen are coming after him as well. They get sidetracked. They end up in some field with goats pissing on them. So they go, all right, let's get out of here. And they leave. So that's the end of the hitmen. Oh, they end up running into Janine Garofalo, and she just pretty much takes the bolt out of their gun and says, that's mine now or whatever. Or you fuck off. And they go, okay.
As they all kind of convene at the airport, you're right. The goats end up on the road because the two ex-cons are so bumbling that they end up, making a truck that is full of goats crash, and that's how the goats end up being in the movie. There's all these like little teeny tiny moments like that. So we have the ex-cons arriving at the airport in the car with Jenny and Puggy. And they are trying to get on an airplane. They want to go to the Bahamas more than anything. They have this cute little bit where they don't know if they want to go to departures or arrivals because they want to depart there, but they want to arrive
in the Bahamas.
Well, we want to arrive in the Bahamas, but We wanted a part.
This is a joke, right?
Yeah, they did
I
that
can't
joke.
tell you. I have done that in the past. I've been at the airport going, now, do I want to pick this guy up in arrivals or departures? Where are we going? Because he's leaving the airport.
I will say that they made that joke twice.
Okay, we gotta pick a road, arrivals or departures. We're arriving, but then we're departing.
And it was funny the first time. I didn't need that same joke a second time.
Right.
I was like, okay, like I got it. They don't know the difference between departures and arrivals. They're bumbling idiots. So also as they arrive at the airport, that's where we get the scene where they have to get through security with the nuclear weapon. They get through, they end up on the airplane, they board the plane, they bribe the gate agent in order to take the bomb directly onto the airplane. We have to account for little things like that. Right. And at this point, because of them going through security, the nuclear weapon is now counting down. So now we have a countdown timer of when this nuclear bomb is going to go off, and everybody is going to be fucked. So Puggy manages to escape everybody. And at the same time, Jenny and the two criminals, the two ex-cons, are boarding the airplane. Puggy goes and he runs and he finds Matt and he tells Anna what's up. And then he sees a Fritos vending machine, which he falls in love with again. It is just that's probably the biggest love affair in the movie, is him and Fritos. Okay.
Yeah, I get that. As a fat guy, nothing takes place and precedent over snack foods. And everything is kind of tied up to that point. The hitmen kind of go off on their own. Yep. We forget about Arthur. Now we're focusing on this plane that's starting to take off.
Bomb.
The Elliott character runs down the runway and catches himself gets on the plane and hides himself. Then of course, he takes out one of the bad guys with a fire extinguisher. So he's out in the count. The other guy comes over. There's a tussle for the bomb. Then the door opens. The guy falls out with the bomb via Dr. Strangelove. Little homage there as he's falling.
Very
beautiful
much.
Scene. Beautiful, serene scene. Again, you don't feel bad. You feel bad that he's going to die because he's going to die, but he seems okay with it. Snake is like this was the opus of my life. Yep. Was this moment, this crescendo into the depths of the sea with a nuclear bomb. Again, who is this guy of all people to have such an amazing death? Like, he dies like a Viking king.
Yeah, so not only we get to see him plummeting, and it's all choral music that's playing before we get to see the giant explosion when he's in the water. It's quite beautiful. I agree with you on that. Yeah.
And I think there's a very small scene where Janine Garofalo goes into the house and Tom Sizemore is there with the gun pointing at the cops. And Janine Garofalo says, "You're making a big mistake." And Tom Sizemore says, "Story of my life.
Yeah.
Get in here." And I think you get a little glimpse of Tom Sizemore's soul, Snake's soul at that point. He's a screw up. He knows he's no good. He'll never amount to anything. He's probably been told that his whole life. And that beautiful ending for him is that's God going, I want to, this is your moment right here.
Here you
and
are,
boom,
sir. Yeah.
Nuclear bomb blows up in the middle of the ocean. Crisis averted. The FBI are happy, whatever. They forget about the whole thing.
Yeah.
Everything is starting to get wrapped up.
Yeah, so everything gets kind of wrapped up in a neat little package. Snake is presumably dead. I guess we don't officially know that, but I don't think he
could come back in the sequel. Sure.
You never know. And then Eddie, his co-ex-convict, he ends up going to jail for these crimes, but he has a good cellmate. He's very happy with his new cellmate. Right. And Patrick Warburton, I can never say his last name. He discovers that he loves being naked, so he becomes a male stripper, and he has a new wife, and he's very excited about that. That's a storyline that we didn't really follow at all, but again, you get to see his butt. So I loved. Did you see The Tick, the TV show that he did?
Oh yeah.
Oh my
sure.
God, that show is so underrated. I love that show.
The cartoon was great. I mean,
Yeah.
the tick itself was such a great concept. It was actually made in 3 manifestations, and I don't think any of them really did that well.
No.
But the cartoon came out after the comics, and then there was Patrick Warburton's version, and then a British actor took it over. What's his name? Safanowitz, I believe his last name is. He was in a couple of Marvel movies. He's good at doing like American impressions. He killed it. He killed the role. But yeah, again, great butt. I mean, he was in great shape in that movie.
Yeah.
Everybody looked good in that movie.
They really did.
Janine Garofalo was hot in that movie. I mean, I've never said Janine Garofalo looked hot, but she was sexy.
Yeah, she has that one moment where her cop uniform pops open and she's got the red bustier on underneath. And you and I talked a little bit about the holiday season before we started.
Mhm.
And I will say it was interesting to see Zoe De Chanel with the lighter color hair, which reminds me of Elf all the time.
Oh.
So, I
right.
mean, it's like Zoe De Chanel so classically has that dark hair, that very like hipster sort of look. And she looks great in this movie. I mean, I realize that she's like a kid, but she's beautiful.
She's a 17, 18. It's I
Yeah.
think it's legal in most states. She's very cute in that movie. I wouldn't say, I mean, Janine Garofalo to me she was hot in that movie.
Hot.
Even
Yeah.
she was like there was like a dirtiness to it, like
Yep.
she was that swarthy, sexy. Even like again, I think she kind of eclipsed Sofia Vergara in that movie as being sexy. But again, Puggy, the homeless guy, was sexy. Tom Sizemore looked good too. He was in good shape. I think it was, and Tim Allen was at the prime of his movie career. He's a no. He can't miss Tim Allen, in my opinion. The Santa Claus movies were great. He was great in most of the comedies he did. His show was great.
I was a big fan of Home Improvement, so
Home Improvement. Yeah. What just an all around great actor. Again, the comedy was well written. The actors were great. It was funny overall. Again, just a couple, for being nitpicky, just a couple of little holes in the plot. But overall, I think it was just a tragedy, figuratively and literally, that this movie just bombed so bad.
Yeah.
It was just a big bomb. It was just a big bomb.
I think that this movie was really successful, even though it was such a failure. It is one of those kind of like hidden gems. Is it the best movie of all time? No. It kind of fell flat for me in a couple of aspects. I feel like if we had gone a little bit heavier with the slapstick stuff, or if we had gone a little bit heavier with the satire, it would have functioned a little bit better. I feel like, again, the studio probably had to tone stuff like that down. They were like, okay, this joke can't be so subversive. We have to make it a little bit more palatable for your everyday audience, because they probably thought that they had a hit on their hands. And as you mentioned, it was a bomb. So I feel like it could have been, it was like right there. It was so close to being really, really excellent. But that said, I enjoyed the heck out of watching it, and I'm so glad that you suggested this movie.
Oh, I'm so happy. Yeah, I wanted to share it with you because I think you're great at tearing apart movies. And for me personally, I'm with you. The shittier the movie, the more enjoyable it is to watch. But this was enjoyable on a lot of levels. And I think that people, if they knew the movie existed, again, it's just one of those movies that fall out of the sky, and you're like, where was this movie after all these years? Yeah, they'll go back and they'll watch it, and I think they'll enjoy it. It's on YouTube now. I believe it's on Apple TV. I rented it for $3. I mean, you can't beat that.
Yeah, it's true. So on my channel, I like to rate movies out of 7 thumbs up. So I would love to hear how you would rate this movie on a scale of 7 thumbs up.
I would say 5. I would give it 5. I give it a solid 5 thumbs out of 7. Again, I think there was a couple of holes in the plot. I think I would have liked it to be a little bit more, I think a little bit more dirtier, darker. I think it could have been darker. I think there could have been more cursing and filthy references. I think that would have been fun. I think it was definitely watered down for a PG-13 audience. I don't need breath. I don't need nudity. Again, the toe sucking was enough to get me there.
It's nice,
yeah,
but you don't need
it would have been nice. We had the aerobics. We had the feet. That's all you really needed. But yeah, again, solid writing, great directing. You can tell that they really cared about the movie. I think Barry Sonnenfeld actually played a little part in the movie as one of the Gators fans on the radio. That was his voice. He throws himself into everything. I'm a big Men in Black fan. I love his movies. Even Wild Wild West, little spoiler alert for all those ladies out there. Big fan of the Wild Wild West.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, guilty pleasures, man. Well written. David Barry, big fan of his. Now I want to read the book. So overall it was great. What about you?
I think that I'm right there with you. I would give this a 5 out of 7 thumbs up. It was really, really fun to watch. The thing that I would have changed is you don't necessarily need to have all of these different pairings. So like you have the cops and the FBI agents. That's basically like we could kind of like lump that into one. We have the ex-cons and the hitmen. We could kind of lump that into one. On the other hand, I wouldn't want to get rid of any of those characters. So perhaps my real solution to making this a little bit better of a movie actually would have been extending the runtime a little bit. This is your classic 90-minute film. They did not want to go over 90 minutes. It's very clear. And because of that, it is jam-packed. It can get a little bit confusing because of that. I almost want to see like the director's cut of this. I'm curious if there's a DVD that has a director's cut that might make it much more interesting. There's probably not, since it was such a giant bomb. But I would like to see the stuff that ended up on the cutting room floor that maybe hashed out some of those like subplots that fell flat.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think there's a lot of small little gems, like the commentary would be fun to listen to as well, to see what Barry was putting in those movies. I mean, just that Miami Vice reference alone is hilarious. Like who would do that? But yeah, I agree with you. I think there was a lot that was left on the cutting room floor. And again, a lot of these movies that are made, they're totally different movies after post-production. Like sometimes to the point where the director's like, "You fucking ruined my movie. Whatever you guys did, ruined it." But again, timing, tragedy, it all plays a big factor.
Being named Big Trouble, like that was just the wrong choice. They had to know that. Big Trouble is synonymous with Big Trouble in Little China.
Right.
We can't
totally
agree. We can't do that. And there's another movie called Big Trouble.
Yes, in 1996 or 94 or something.
There's too many. It's absurd. So with all of that being said, I had a great time watching this movie. Again, I am so happy that you suggested it, and I would love it if you would tell everybody again a little bit about what you do, where they can find you, and we'll make sure to also link all of that, of course, down below.
Oh, of course. If you know me from the Dabbleverse, if you know, you know. Me and Kaylee are kindred spirits in that sense. You can check me out on the Uncle Rico show on the Shuli network, where we all make fun of Stuttering John along with Carl on WATP. You can catch me January 18th. I am filming a special Letitia, which you could see at Poughkeepsie, New York at Laugh It Up Comedy Club. bsshowlive.com for tickets, or you can go to laughitupcomedy.com. And I'd love to see you there.
Yeah, definitely. I'm gonna have to think about possibly making a trip for that. Actually, that sounds like a ton
bring
of
the
fun.
whole gang. Yeah, it'd be so much fun. It'd be great. You watch me make a fool out of myself for an hour. It'd be a lot of fun.
That sounds perfect, and not too far away. I mean, not a fun drive in January, probably, but you never know. Maybe we'll make it out. And if I can't make it out, I encourage everybody else to go make it out, because Zenhauser, you are hilarious, and I love everything that you do.
The feeling's mutual,
Thank
Kaylee.
you.
I think you're hilarious, and I think you're great on WATP. And I love this show. I'm an instant fan.
Thank you. I was honored to have you join me. So thank you so much again for being here. And thank you guys all for watching. And I can't wait for the next one.